Hi guys and girls on YouTube, welcome to my channel. The other day a friend of mine asked me if I could look at this Bose Bluetooth mini speaker. Now I don't usually do small audio equipment, but I thought I'd take a look at it because he said it was an easy problem. He said there's a light on the front flashing, or on the top sorry, and a red light flashing and it won't charge up. He said I think it just needs a new battery, so I thought, oh, what can be difficult about changing a battery? So the first thing I do, I undo the battery compartment and I try and get the battery out, and then I realise the battery's not plugged in, it's actually soldered in on 4 wires to the board. So that makes this absolutely impossible for a DIY person to do unless you've got a soldering iron. So obviously this thing is not meant to be repaired. So the first thing I do is look up the price of a battery, and I was shocked to see the battery is about £60–65, and you have to solder it in, which means complete disassembly. So thinking of the cost of the battery, I thought, well, there can't be many more cells in it because it's such a small thing. And I've actually got here a battery spot welder. So I could just buy a couple of batteries. I could take all the inside out the old battery. I could fit 2 new batteries with a tag spot welded together and job done. But unfortunately, I couldn't be more wrong. So let's just take a look. Right, so the first thing I managed to do was saw the top off the battery. This is glued together. It's obviously not meant to be played about with inside, but I managed to get the top off. And I noticed there's 4 wires on the battery. Well, that's not uncommon because you've got your positive, your negative from the battery. And then there's usually, in most batteries, there's 2 extra contacts that go to a thermistor, which is strapped around the batteries to detect the heat of the batteries and feed the information back to the control circuitry. But I thought, and I've got the part number off the batteries, and there's a little board inside as well. It had a fuse on, a few other bits, and I thought, well, I'll dig the board out, I'll flip it over, and we'll just have a look, because I could see these components on the top of the board. The chances are the components on the back. So I managed to get the board out and flip it over, and well, have a look. So I managed to scrape the silicon off the top of the battery. This was all covered in a white silicon. There's a part number on the battery, so it shouldn't be a problem getting one, or at least getting some data on it. There appears to be 2 batteries in here with a yellow wire, a centre tap from the middle, and it says on here it's 7.4 volt, 2230 milliamps. So the little circuit board there, which is actually flat down, I remove the silicon and I flip it over, and let me just move that up, get the camera in focus. The 2 wires I thought go to a thermistor for the battery pack are actually labelled serial clock and serial data. So obviously this battery is IC square bus controlled. Now I've never come across anything like that before, but then I don't usually do small things like this. So I had a good look round the board, and if we turn it to the part you couldn't see because it was lying flat down, no, that's the top. If we turn it this way, I meant to say, sorry, there appears to be 3, I've looked these up on the internet, there's 3 power FETs, and also there's a microcontroller IC there. Now I'm thinking to myself, why is this IC square bus controlled? Why does it have to communicate with the electronics inside? So I go through the internet and I run a check on these 2 ICs. There's 3 power FETs, and there's also the microcontroller is a Texas Instruments BQ28Z610. Now this is a very interesting chip. So I look on the internet, I type in the number BQ28Z610, and the data sheet for this little microcontroller, a dedicated battery charged chip, is actually about 37 pages long. And I did spend quite a long time reading all this. So I make a check on the battery, the 2 terminals positive and negative out, and there's no voltage there whatsoever. So I'm thinking to myself, well, it's definitely the battery that's faulty because it's producing no output. But as I'm sitting down reading the data sheet, I realise that there's a lot more to this than meets the eye. So let's just, I printed a bit of the data sheet off, let's just take a quick look. So if we look again at the data sheet from Texas Instruments, that's what the big FETs do. They're actually in series with the battery, and they switch the battery power on and off. So I've got no voltage on two of these pins here that are actually coming out of the battery, but when I turn it round and I measure the two contacts here soldered to the battery, I've got just over 7.4 volt. So these batteries are actually fully charged, but they're not letting any power come out of the FETs. So I sit down again and I read more of the data sheet, and I come across this on page 16, which I've printed off. And it's page 16, chapter 3. It's called Permanent Fail. Now, if we read this here, it said, the device can permanently disable the battery pack in case of severe failure, such as an error in the instruction flash or a data flash write. And it says here, in case of an error, the FET is turned off. So I'm thinking to myself, this is the problem. There's nothing wrong with the batteries. The actual battery pack, for some reason, is turned off. Now, there's so many different things, according to this data sheet, that can turn the battery off. So I'm thinking, I wonder if it's a software problem. I wonder if we can get new software from the Bose website. Because there's no point looking for a fault that's not actually there. There's so many different things, according to this, that can disable the battery pack. So I look up on the internet, and this is what I should have done all along in the first place. I should have looked on YouTube, because when I look on YouTube, I actually found that this is a very common problem with this speaker. And what you have to do is you have to download new software from the Bose website to the speaker itself, which is the big mistake I made, because I've wasted a long time looking at this. But anyway, I went to the Bose website, and it's a bit different to a TV. If a TV's got the latest software in, you can't usually download new software. But there was a guy on YouTube, he said you go to the Bose website, he said this had the latest software in already. He said you press a sequence of keys on the keyboard and it takes you to like a secret site where you can re-download the same software that you've already got in the speaker. So that's what I did. I connected it up, I put the secret password in, and I downloaded new software. It was the same version that the Bluetooth speaker already had, but I downloaded the new software, and hey presto, it's cured the fault. But it just goes to show these battery packs, how seriously complicated they are, and also that might explain why some of these pattern battery chargers are probably no good, because according to the data sheet, there's somewhere in the chip which can be permanently written to, and then it can't be read out once a bit's set. So yeah, there you go, guys. I should have looked on YouTube in the beginning, but it's been a very interesting journey. So if you get one of these that doesn't charge, before you do anything, before you go to all this trouble, just try a software download. Alright guys, many thanks for watching my channel, and hopefully see you soon in the next video.